Every now and again, we hear it said, or we ourselves say, I could have done it, but I didn't do it. Oh, that moment, I could have done this, that, or the other. I should have done it, and I didn't do it. One of the characteristics which are present in I imagine in all of our lives, is laziness. Laziness is a state in which we want to do something, but for some reason we don't do it. There's the desire for something, but somehow we don't do it. We kind of get stuck, blocked. I reflected on this, what the meaning of laziness is. And I came to the conclusion, my personal conclusion, it's the union between it's the union of the awareness of the importance of something together with the lack of desire for the same thing. So in reality, I don't really want to, but I know that I should. I know it would be good for me. On the other hand, on the other side of laziness, there is effort. The effort is when we manage to overcome this. Instead of letting laziness win, or maybe some things, I'm not used to doing something, and I managed to overcome this, the laziness. And it's described in the way of the Bodhisattva, the path to enlightenment. One of the qualities of the Bodhisattva, one of the 6 perfections to perfect. So there's something which is present with all the other 5 perfections is enthusiastic effort, joyful effort. When the Bodhisattva is practicing generosity, morality, concentration, or wisdom, there should always be present the practice of joyful effort. What does that mean? It means that things don't come spontaneously to us. We have to put energy into it, in that which is positive and virtuous, but it's not easy. Why is this? Because we, more than anything, we're made up of habits. What comes to us spontaneously are the habits that we've developed. If we see among our habits, there are virtuous habits and there are non-virtuous habits. It's said that effort is the virtue which is the perfection which enables all the other perfections. It's not, otherwise it's not possible to obtain the others, because we're totally overcome by our habits. And habits are, we've done this, that, or the other in a certain way for such a long time that it comes naturally for us to repeat it in this way. Physical habits, verbal habits, mental habits. If we just let ourselves drift along like this, what happens? We reinforce these habits, and we can't change. We can't change direction. well, for somebody might be fine. Maybe if they're already in a state of peace, balance, satisfaction, and considers his or her own habits fine as that, well, that's fine. Go along, go ahead as you are already. But when you see that, well, the way I think or react is not ideal, that requires effort. Put effort doesn't mean necessarily putting a lot of energy into it, but basically putting effort in that which is virtuous and positive, but not necessarily easy. I learned this once. I had to do an exam, a memory exam, and I never liked these memorization exams. Well, it's a long. When I was studying in the monastery, I had to memorize many pages. And what happens was that every now and again there were these exams, memorization exams, and but the exam that permitted you to go to the next year was the debate exam, which I excelled in, and the memorization exam was a kind of formality. So I didn't give much importance to the memorization. And one day I was about to go to the exam, a month and a half before the memorization exam. He came to me and said, "You realize that my master said to me, in a month and a half you have this exam. You remember that you have to memorize 5 sheets of paper?" I said, "Yes." "How many have you memorized so far?" "Well," I said, it's not easy for me. I'm Western. In the West, we don't have this habit of memorizing things. And for you Tibetans, it's easier." And he looked at me and said, I'd memorized 13 pages. And the master said, "Well, you remember there are 50. And he said to me, "If you don't put effort into that which is difficult for you, where are you going to put your effort?" And that made me reflect a lot, because I consider myself somebody who tried really hard, because I stayed until late at the debating sessions. When I went to lessons, I went to lessons that were not obligatory for me, I did a lot of extra work that wasn't required for my year. But I didn't like memorizing, and the fact Okay, so I realized that I was staying late in the memorization sessions, in the debating sessions, so that I could avoid the going to the memorization lessons. So when my master said this to me, I said to myself, "Wow, he's right." There's a form of laziness which is called doing one thing so that you don't have to do the other. 4 types of laziness. There's the obvious laziness. I'm not doing it because I don't want to. The second one is the laziness that says, yes, it's very important, I'll do it later. Procrastination. Continually procrastinating. The third kind of laziness is that in which we say, "Oh, this thing is so important, I have to do it, but right now I have to do something else. I can't do it now." So we do something Often we do something useless to do something, to avoid doing something useful. So we often do something to avoid doing something else, which is much more important. The first type of, so we have the very declared, open declared laziness. I don't want to do it. The second one is when we postpone. And the third one is not, it's not postponing because we don't want to do it, but we say, I know I have to do it, but I can't do it now. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't because I have to do something else. And the fourth one is even worse. It's the laziness in which we denigrate ourselves. It's the laziness in which we say it would be nice to do it, but I can't do it. I'm not able to do it. So we denigrate ourselves. I'll never be able to do it. I'm not able. Oh, how nice if I were able to do this. Those are the 4 kinds of laziness. And I realized that when I was in the memorization sessions, I had really all 4 types of laziness. There was once I said, I don't want to do it. The second time I said, I'll do it later. And the third other type, I often said, I can't do it. I've got to do something else. And the fourth one, I'd say, I can't do it. And at a certain point, my master said, if you don't put effort into that which is difficult, where are you going to put your effort? That made me really reflect. Okay, it made me think I have to do something seriously now. And it was more of a challenge towards myself. And I made myself memorize. I put all my energy into this. And so I put all my energy into memorizing morning, day, and night. And when it came to the exam, at the end, instead of presenting 50 memorized pages, I had memorized 63. So in the whole year, I'd memorized 13 pages, but in a month and a half, I memorized the rest. What does this mean? My problem wasn't that I wasn't able. It's just that I didn't feel like doing it. And very often, this is true for most of us. There are many, many things that we're absolutely able to do, but we have a pretty serious problem that we have a real fear of overexerting ourselves, of tiring ourselves. We equate fatigue with suffering. We want to have a life which is comfortable, with no effort, obtaining everything we want without any effort. But it's as if when I was Tashilumpa in Tibet in the morning early, and I went to my master early in the morning. Lhasa and Sigatse follow the same time as Peking. But there's 3 hours difference. So 8 o'clock was really 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was totally dark, very cold. And I remember I came there in the morning. I just open a parenthesis. Following that, as they follow the Peking time. The sun rises at 8, but they start the practices in the morning as if the sun rose at the 6th. So really, in real terms, the puja began at 4 o'clock, really. Anyway, this is just an aside. It just seemed a folly to me. So total darkness and cold at the beginning of the Kuru. So, and usually finished when the sun hadn't even risen. So I went one day towards 8 o'clock. There was a boy who was bringing water to my master. He had a big container of 25 kilos on his shoulders with a band on his forehead. And there were four floors that he had to bring the water up with these very steep staircases, Tibetan staircases. So even if he was, even though he was Tibetan, he was totally out of breath on the third floor. So I arrived and I received the teachings from my master. And at a certain point, I can't remember, before or after, I can't remember, I saw the boy bringing up the water. Man, it wouldn't really have been difficult. It would be really easy to bring a tap and a pipe up to the fourth floor, because in the courtyard just below there was the water, so it would have been really easy. So you could have had a tube, a pipe, an extension. Well, it doesn't have to be hot water, but at least cold water. Well, it's not as if we're asking who knows what, something so difficult. Why don't we do it? I asked him. He said, it's not that we don't have the resources to do this in the monastery, or the technology. But he said, if the young boys don't learn to put effort, to have consistency, constancy, energy, and effort for the most basic things like having water, how are they going to put effort into the more subtle things like meditation, studying, and other things in life? Because we said at the beginning, we're made of habits. And in modern times, we have this rule that to be happy, we have to respect the rule of minimum effort and maximum comfort. And we have this idea that the less effort we put into something and the more comfort we have, the happier we are. Can you see this? Do you recognize this pattern? All we have to do is to look at when we have a trip. Ever more, we look for more and more comfort and to diminish the effort. And this seems like the most wonderful thing. If we have to wash clothes, we look for the way where we use less effort and have more comfort. We have this idea that permeates everything, that to be happy, the less effort we have to make, the happier we are. And this is one of the reasons we're destroying our planet. And one of the reasons we're destroying the rabbit is because of the law of minimum effort. For example, for the health of human beings, what is essential that there be in our houses? If you have a nice thick sweater and a hat, could you resist? Could you survive in 15 degrees? I think so. So I've had to have this experience. So I've had this experience because with my dog next to me, I had to put the heating down to 16 degrees. So you put on a sweater and you're fine. But it seems worse to say to people, try and use less heating. Try to renounce, your 20 degrees of heating. Or, because, oh no, let's destroy the environment and have our 20 degrees of heating. I'm sorry if I'm so blunt, But what I want to say is that we've got to a point where comfort is something that we are absolutely not prepared to give up. It seems as if there is much more suffering in giving up a bit of comfort. As if, oh God, I've got to put on my sweater. Oh, what a drag. I have to put on a sweater. So the main point is that beyond, with this great attachment to minimum effort, maximum comfort, it's not the only reason, but it's one of the main reasons, I believe, for which we are destroying the environment, the planet, because the tendency is, and I give here, I think the governments are right. It's difficult to do otherwise. It would be a good idea to change the sources of energy. But we never talk about diminishing demand, only about alternative sources. Politicians depend on popularity. How can a politician say we have problems with the excessive consumption of energy? Therefore, every now and again, every time we consume energy, we're generating CO2. So the government will try and change the sources of energy. But the part of the citizens, they should try to consume less. There was a time in Brazil when there was no water. There was a lack of water. They made this following rule. If you continue to consume the same amount, you will pay 30%. You will pay you'll pay 30% more. But if you consume 30%, if you consume less, you will have a reduction of 30% on the bill. And this worked really well. So there was a real reduction of consumption. But let's say winter comes. Okay, let's put 16 degrees in our house because we're using gas. But apart from economic and gas that we have to depend on Russia or whatever, naturally we're damaging the environment. The other day, I heard it said, I don't know, it was a small conference, to send an email consumes the same energy. It's the same as 200 or 300 meters by car. One single email. Okay, so just to write, thank you, and you send it. All right, let's say 200 meters by car, same amount of energy. What does that mean? Why? Because they're behind an email. There are all the servers, the whole system, which consumes energy. And we live in a way we're constantly consuming more and more and more and more. And if we see our increasing consumption, we're going towards for our comfort and to reduce our effort. Now, let's say that doing this to diminishing effort and increases our well-being, we destroy the environment. But if it worked, we destroy the environment for those that come, after. Let's say at least we're happy with our comfort and minimum effort. The problem is even that doesn't work. Or does it work? You tell me. I'm not saying that one must suffer and be cold. But our actions, our choices, not on the benefit, on the basis of what is. We should make our choices not on the basis of what is more comfortable for me, but what is more beneficial. And in our lives, whether we like it or not, there are many aspects in which we have to make an effort. For example, to learn a profession, or we have to work. And to grow professionally, we have to make an effort. In a relationship with another person, interpersonal relationships, do we have to make an effort? Yes. Even here, we see that very often in relationships, as soon as there's a problem, we say, oh, no, not for me. Why? Oh, well, it's too tiring. Oh, let's drop it. It's not a question that... Okay, so making an effort in life is part of life. The problem is we live within these illusions, and this makes us much weaker and much more fragile. When you're not afraid of making an effort, because you're used to it, because it's part of life. I made an effort for so many things. There's got to do this thing. Okay. I've got my own theory. What happens when a person has so much comfort, doesn't have to make any effort for temperature, for food, to move, for transport. You don't even have to climb the stairs. There's a lift, or there's a moving. You don't have to make an effort to find food for nothing. Take away all the efforts. You have everything that has maximum comfort. This is one of the things. When somebody has a elevated state, a high material state, what the aim is generally to increase comfort and diminish effort. If we were to take people who are able, and we're really part of this group, after a certain threshold, you can't have more and more comfort. Once you've got a bed, how many beds can you have? So we're really in this group. When you have enough to protect from cold, we create so many illusions about our needs, material needs. But to have a state of more satisfaction, balance, peace, does it bring that? All this comfort? What do we see in these days that we live in? An enormous increase in comfort, when one doesn't have to make any effort for anything, but together with this, there's an emotional fragility which is growing incredibly. If you just look at the generation in which I'm part of, but let's say more the generation after me, talking to people who have, with this generation, one of the things you can observe is that we live in an epoch, there's a very intelligent generation now. So much information, abilities, but with a very, very high level of emotional fragility. All you have to do is to look at the quantity, the pharmaceutical products that are sold. I can't remember the numbers, but I said once, it's just absolutely astounding, horrifying, the amount of medicines that are sold. It's one of the things. So the less effort you put into daily things in life, the more fear there is of having to make an effort, of not being comfortable. And this creates a very strong internal state of fragility. There was a teaching. There was a teaching given by Lama Ganchen's teacher, Thichan Rinpoche. It was a difficult text. It's not really to show with everybody because it's difficult to understand in many aspects. But he spoke about suffering. In a part of this text, he was praising the quality of suffering in this text. Not in the sense now that we have to suffer. But once you suffer, let's try and see it in a different way. And one of the things he said was, for example, the little sufferings help us to live the big sufferances with less suffering. And he gave many examples of this. And when you get used to effort in little things, you experience having to make a big effort much more easily. When you're used to pain, small pains, you accept bigger pains much more easily. When you become used to difficulties, you get used to the bigger difficulties which inevitably come. The more one has the courage to confront difficulties, understood as what happens is I have the resources to confront this. I don't have problems to confront these difficulties. And when we make decisions, I say, I don't really want to make the effort. Don't be frightened of having to make an effort. You should be afraid of laziness, because laziness, what's the main function of laziness? Laziness denies us of opportunities, robs us of opportunities. That's the problem with laziness. We have beautiful opportunities, and because of laziness, we just let them go by. Who robbed me of that opportunity? Who denied me that opportunity? Laziness. And very often it's because I don't really feel like doing so. It's too difficult. I'm sorry, but this is the way it is. Am I right? I would like to be wrong. This is how it seems to me. Therefore, one of the fundamental points is to be able to cultivate joyful effort, which Shantideva described as in the Bodhisattva. Tsun is effort, kan. What does it mean? In Tibet, Tibetan has a very nice aspect that very few syllables express many things. So what is effort? Gela. Gewa trola. Ge is virtue. La. La. To. Joya. To joy, sorry. What is effort? It's joy in virtue. Joy in that which is virtuous and positive. It means that when we have to choose, we choose that which is virtuous, not that which is easiest. We choose that which is of greatest benefit, not only in the immediate term, but in the medium and long term. That which is of pure benefit to me and everyone around me, collectively, we put it in the balance, which is of more benefit. This is of benefit to me, the other of benefit to me and the other, so better that one. very often in our choices, we choose that which is easier for us and that which is more pleasurable, less tiring, less unpleasant, causes less suffering in a way. In the immediate term, in joyful effort, this choice is turned upside down. And the point of reference is no longer that which is easiest, but the choice which is of greatest benefit and has the most meaning. Therefore, I don't choose on the basis I like it, I don't like it. Instead, it's on the basis of, is it beneficial or not? Choose the one that has meaning or not. Because at the base, one of the difficulties that we have is that we have this ignorance in which we don't manage to connect action in the present moment and the result in the future. And that's one of our handicaps. And we can't even connect the result in the present with the cause generated in the past. In the end, we end up with a very limited view. Oh, this thing I'm not going to do because I was upset. But because it's not good for me. Is it good for you, to you, or the others? Or would it be better to overcome this arrogance and to do what you really know is best? Which is better? No, we're kind of attached to that which is easier. But opportunities pass. Life goes on. Opportunities that we have to familiarize ourselves with our qualities, all these, and to accumulate merits, all these opportunities just go by. We miss the opportunities. So it's said that the Bodhisattva, which is really what we aspire to be, Bodhisattva, one of the characteristics he has is courageous. Bodhisattva is courageous because he's not afraid of suffering, of making an effort, or of pain. A bodhisattva is afraid of having an insignificant life, of not making the correct decision. How many times I saw Lama Rinpoche chose that which was beneficial, most beneficial, and he never measured the effort required in doing this thing. Oh, there was 30 hours we have to drive in, a journey of 30 hours by car. Let's just do it. We're not going to sleep for 3 nights because we have to do this and that. Okay, let's do it. We won't be able to eat. Who cares? And we have to listen to this 35 hours of congresses, the proceedings of congresses. No, other people couldn't tolerate it. And he said, oh, no problem, let's just do it. The difference is that he saw the significance that we weren't able to perceive. I'm sorry, I was just looking at Gabriella and it reminded me of something. And it just made me laugh. But anyway, there was a period in India, Lama Ganchen received many prizes, and we traveled all around. We traveled all around India, where there were congresses, where Lama Michel Ganchen was recognized, where he created, was very beautiful in one respect. Many contacts made, a lot of recognition. Rinpoche was making a lot of effort in creating these contacts. But in our mind, in our Western mind, our linear, logical Western mind, it was much more than a Fellini film. It was total folly. We won't go into all that. Too crazy. So, I was saying, why are we doing all this? It's so difficult. But Rinpoche saw the meaning and the benefit. It's not that we weren't making an effort. How many times I saw Rinpoche in situations? It wasn't his culture. It wasn't his habits. And I realized we were in China. And at a certain point, after a very long day, everybody absolutely exhausted, there was a dinner. And I just wanted to go to the hotel and eat some Western food. But no, we had to go to this official dinner. And we had to go there because it's more important because it was important to give opportunity to people that Lama Ganchen was creating a contact with to be able to offer a dinner. And I saw there were a few people around me were so tired. The difficulty that there was to adapt to the culture of the other. And I saw Rinpoche and I thought, another table, he was like a chameleon, Rinpoche. He perfectly adapted to their reality, to their culture, their habits. And I was looking at him, and then I realized something. That this, to make an effort, for Rinpoche making an effort to adapt to cultures different from his, he did every single year that he lived here in Italy. In Tibet, he was obviously used to other things, to speak in Tibetan, to eat zampa, to live in Tibetan culture was his natural habitat. But we took it for granted that he adapted 100% to our culture, which he did. Anywhere he went, everything he did, he adapted. And this was not without effort, obviously. With his wisdom and compassion, he didn't complain but it was the fact that he didn't give priority to his comfort, his habits, but rather he gave effort to that which was of greater benefit collectively. And this is a quality of the holy beings, the great beings, bodhisattvas, the capacity to adapt, to do which is of greater effort, to choose that which is of greatest benefit without fearing effort, difficulty. And once, Atisha, this is written in a text, he said to his disciple Drongtong, "Oh, my son, don't be afraid of suffering." And Drompa answered, "Oh, master, if I'm not afraid of suffering, I'll suffer more, because if I'm afraid of suffering, I'll try to avoid it." And Atisha said, "No, don't be afraid of suffering, because if you're afraid of suffering, you suffer much more." If we look at our suffering, we have a part of suffering which is the non-acceptance of us of suffering, which is the resuffering of the suffering of the past. Because this happened to me, that happened to me, it shouldn't have happened. You said this, and the other one did this, that, and the other. We don't manage to elaborate this, and digest this and eliminate, and we still go back and back to again and again to relive this. Then we have the suffering towards the future, the pre-suffering of the future. And that is the fear of suffering. Oh, if this happens, what will I do if this, that, and that, or the other happens? Oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. For fear of suffering, one suffers much, much more. If we take our suffering, if we divide it between past and future in on one side and the present on the other, we have much more fear of suffering in the future than we suffer now. So for fear of suffering, we suffer much more. It's not for no reason that Buddha Shakyamuni, that he described amongst the 6 perfections that we have to develop, is the 4th one of joyful effort. And let's remember that these are qualities that have to be cultivated: generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort. And it's not something that comes automatically, spontaneously. It's something that we have to cultivate, to invest our energy into this so that gradually it becomes easier. To our capacity to put energy into that which is of greater benefit, has greater virtue, which has more significance, more meaning, and not necessarily that which is easiest or the most pleasurable. It's not that we have to automatically choose that which is most difficult. Sometimes the easiest option corresponds to that which is of most benefit. But our point of reference is what is of greatest benefit. And I act accordingly. But here, let me just conclude. Let me just open a door, and I'm going to leave you to reflect on it. One is not to turn this rule, the rule that we have, upside down, not to be fearful of making an effort, and to be aware that to be aware of choosing that which is greater benefit, not that which brings greatest comfort. And let me just add, the path is not made up of choosing that which is difficult and causes suffering. It's got nothing to do with sacrifice. I'm not saying that one has to suffer and sacrifice. It's got nothing to do with that at all. But it's more has to do with choosing that which is beneficial and not necessarily that which is easiest. And this choice is made with joy, not as a sacrifice. But there we have a problem in front of us. Very often, we know that would be better to do one thing, but we don't manage to do it. Therefore, the antidote to laziness is joyful effort. Joyful effort comes from the aspiration or desire. Let's call it desire. I won't put effort into anything unless I want it. Desire or aspiration comes from faith, believing in the importance of the existence of the qualities. If I can't put effort into something, for example, let me just say, if you can't put effort into meditation, because we just don't want to meditate, because it means we don't have the awareness yet, we don't understand clearly why I should meditate and the benefits of meditating, etc. Therefore, when we see that we can't put effort into something, such as meditation, we have to reinforce our faith into that thing. For example, into meditation. Physical exercise, eating well, whatever it is. Wherever we see we should put more energy and we don't manage to do this. Therefore, don't be afraid to make an effort and learn to increase the faith in that which is beneficial. We put effort into that which we desire, but we can't desire something unless we believe in it. It's as if, but for example, advertising. If a company wants its clients, its customers to go and buy a product, how do I make somebody buy my product? First thing is the customer has to know the product. If customer, and then to decide. If they don't desire my product, they will never buy it. So to desire the product, the customers must know my product. Therefore, I advertise. Well, I promote, I explain the qualities of my product so that to create a desire for my product. And the spiritual path isn't different. We have our own advertising, which are done. Importance of bodhicitta, for example. But we must cultivate this aspect of faith in the qualities that we want to develop. Faith in the person that we want, the qualities of the person we want to be, and the qualities that we want to develop. And the benefits of meditation. When we look in the world, there are so many complaints now, so much dissatisfaction regarding social and worldwide aspects, the environment and many other aspects. Mahatma Gandhi, he said, we should be the change that we want to see in the world. I must have the consistency in the way I am. So I need to be consistent in my behavior with what I want to see generally. It's useless that I complain that we're polluting the planet when I can't even reduce my comfort for the benefit of the environment. I don't know if that's clear. Therefore, let's try for a minute to have more awareness of the beauty of joyful effort, which we find in our daily life, in situations. Shall I do it, not do it? Oh, it's a greater benefit, but it's harder. Well, we choose with joy to choose that which is most beneficial. And this is, in reality, if we manage to do this, from childhood, well, it's a bit more difficult later, to create familiarity, where to put effort in daily things. Okay, if I have to walk a bit, okay, I'll walk. I need to clean, so I need to exert myself physically, I'll just do it. Not to see the difficulty, to ponder on the difficulty of doing something, but just to joyfully put effort into it. If I find difficulties in relationships to others, in my work, or the house where I live, if I see, I don't feel like doing it because it's tiring, but I'll do it instead. When I do it, I'm developing one of the qualities necessary for enlightenment, because to look yourselves in the eyes and to address your own mental defilements and go against that trend is much more difficult than cleaning the house when you don't feel like doing it. Much more difficult. And if we create the habit of not being fearful with having to make an effort, and we don't draw back, it's said that the Bodhisattva, when a Bodhisattva finds himself in a situation where he has to make an effort, he feels like a warrior. A warrior who is fighting, and then he's cut, and he sees his own blood, it's said that he has even more courage. The adrenaline increases and he makes even more effort. A bodhisattva says, yeah, I can do it. I'll make even more effort, like a warrior. And when we manage to overcome, sorry if I say it this way, it's a delicateness, let's say our weakness, this fragility in our state of happiness. Okay, I'll make a bit. I have to make an effort. What's the problem? When you make the 8 Mahayana precepts, when there's one one vow not to eat after midday. And people say, well, what happens if I'm hungry? Okay, so you're hungry, and so what? What's the problem of being hungry? Oh, I can't. If I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Well, okay, but if you're hungry, no big deal, nothing happens. What, I'm not talking about being hungry for 50 days. Just for a few hours until you go to sleep. Have a glass of water and you go to bed. To say to show that there's this fear of making an effort, which blocks us on so many things. So where we have to make an effort, it's not just a question of work or looking after our home or our health. It's a question of cultivating one of the qualities, fundamental qualities to enlightenment, the path to enlightenment. Putting effort in that which is beneficial and virtuous and not necessarily easy. That's a very great quality.
Jetsu alame kutse rapten chi nam karatin le chochur gepa dan losan tempe drume sasumgi drove musel taktu ne gyuru chi kewa kuntu yanda lama dan dalme cheke pela longche ching sadan lamge yunten rabzo ne Dorje change kopa nyurtoba sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumke chinge lop kuncho sumke ngodrubotsol kuncho sumke trashishon.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Buona giornata a tutti.
Have a nice day, everyone. Teshidele.